I would like to call the May 13th, 2026 City Council regular meeting to order. Will everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Carey,
Present.
Chilson,
Present.
Hutchings. Here. Nelson,
Present.
Parker, Wackler,
Present.
Kincaid. Present. You have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda and consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda? Mr. Carey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the approval of the agenda and the consent agenda as presented to us.
Thank you. Second, please. Thank you, Ms. Hutchings. Are there any changes to the agenda or consent agenda? Would the clerk please read the consent agenda?
April 22nd, 2026 City Council meeting minutes. Ordinance 2026-013, increasing estimated revenues and appropriations by $38,485 in the utility fund for lift station monitoring system replacement. Sponsored by the city manager, public hearing on May 27th. Ordinance 2026-014, amending the Soldotna Municipal Code, Chapter 8, Health and Safety, by enacting Chapter 8.40, Liquor License Administrative Procedures, sponsored by the City Clerk, public hearing on May 27th. Action Memorandum 2026-008, non-objection of an AMCO restaurant eating place license for Siam Noodles and Food. Action Memorandum 2026-009, confirming a mayoral appointment to the Soldotna Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. Action Memorandum 2026-010, mayoral appointment to the Planning and Zoning Commission. That is your consent agenda.
Thank you. Are there any public comments on any of the items just read by the clerk? Anyone here in the audience wishing to speak on any item just read by the clerk on the consent agenda? Seeing none, we'll take a look at Zoom, and there are no hands raised there. Are there any council objections to approving the agenda and consent agenda? Seeing and hearing none, the agenda and consent agenda are approved by unanimous consent. Next item on the agenda is public comments and presentations. Are there any members from the public who would like to speak on any item not appearing on the agenda? Please step forward and state your name and address.
So my name's Heidi Brenner. I'm the community manager for the Central Peninsula Special Olympics here in Alaska. And with me is Daryl Hagan, and he is one of the athletes. And we just wanted to come as our team to represent a team and to thank you for choosing us for the grant. And so, Daryl, would you like to present us from there?
Thank you very much on behalf of the city.
And then here's a picture of some of our community members that are on the team.
Good. We'll pass this around. And,
Yeah, I was gonna say, we have time for the
okay. And what this says, so everyone knows, the Special Olympics Alaska Sponsorship Appreciation. This certificate is presented to the Soldotna City Council for your support of the Special Olympics Alaska Central Peninsula community. Heidi Renner, community manager. And you wanted some pictures?
Would that be okay?
Sure. Yep.
You want the full council to go up? Yeah.
Thank you so much. We're getting ready for our state game. It's coming up here in a couple weeks, so. Yes, we have our.
No?
Just a minute. Yeah, we have our fundraiser coming up on the 28th of May. And then also we have this Saturday, we have the torch run, which is our biggest fundraiser throughout the whole state of Alaska and our country too. So we're gearing up for a bunch of events. So thank you so much.
Is there anyone else here in the audience wishing to speak on any item not appearing on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll take a look at Zoom, and I see no hands raised there. Next item on the agenda is number 5, Assembly and Legislative Report. Are there any representatives from the borough and/or the state legislature that would like to address the council? And I see no one here in the audience and no one on Zoom. Next item on the agenda is public hearings. Ordinance 2026-010, accepting grant funds from the Alaska Police Standards Council and increasing estimated revenues and appropriations by $15,500 in the general fund to attend the Alaska Law Enforcement Training Academy, introduced by the city manager. May I have a motion to enact? Mr. Carey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the adoption of ordinance 2026-010, accepting grant funds from the Alaska Police Standards Council, increasing estimated revenues and appropriations by $15,500 in the general fund.
May I have a second, please? Thank you, Ms. Hutchings. A report from the administration.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The police department applied for and received a scholarship from Alaska Police Standard Council for Officer Nicholas Kay's training in the amount of $15,500, and this will be appropriated for that training. And as a side note, Officer Kay graduates from the academy on Friday.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak on this item, which is ordinance 2026-010? Anyone here in the audience? Seeing none, we'll take a look at Zoom, and we see no hands raised there. Having no one wishing to speak, the item is back before the council. Are there any council comments? And Mr. Carey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is another wonderful example in which the different levels of government help each other. The Alaska Police Standards Council, again, has provided funding for us for many, many years to help with these very important resources for training of those people that protect us. I'm very aware that often our citizenry isn't aware of how much there is the interconnectedness between different levels of government. And this is just a fine example. Obviously, it'd be very difficult to be against accepting money to provide service for the people who protect us and protect not only us in our town, but also all the many different people that come here as tourists and family members. And so again, I think this is wonderful. And I think we need to praise the interconnectedness of different levels of our government helping each other. Thank you.
Any other council comments? Any objections to approving ordinance 2026-010? Seeing and hearing none, ordinance 2026-010 is enacted by unanimous consent. Next item on the agenda is ordinance 2026-011, amending the official zoning map to rezone Tract 2 of the Mooring Estate Subdivision, Part 19 from single-family, two-family residential to multifamily residential, introduced by the city manager. May I have a motion to enact? Mr. Nelson,
I'll move to enact ordinance 2026-011.
may I have a second, please? Ms. Hutchings, thank you. Report from the administration.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Director Mitchell will report on this item.
Thank you, through the city manager. So this ordinance seeks to amend the city's official zoning map for the 5.13 acre for the property located at 327 Knight Drive. It's near the intersection of Knight Drive and South Kobeck. This is transitioning from single-family to family in hopes of rezoning it to multifamily. The biggest driving force of this is, after speaking with the property owner and how they want to develop this, is the biggest restriction is within our code. When it comes to certain zones, particularly single-family, rural residential, and single-family, two-family zones, the code restricts one principal building. Therefore, even though this lot is a 5.13 acre lot, they can either just build a duplex or a single-family with a potential ADU. So as noted in the applicant's letter, they're looking to build multi-generational housing, so they're wanting to build multiple dwelling units. So with this rezone would allow them that opportunity to build more dwelling units, detached dwelling units on this lot to accommodate for their needs. The other thing is, in terms of the assessment of the lot itself, there's sewer and water connections there. In terms of access, there's Starlight and Knight Drive. So staff doesn't see that there's struggles or development when it comes to connecting with infrastructures, and those things would be reviewed during the permitting process and the site plan review. Other than that, the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend your council to approve this rezone because they find that it meets the goals of the comprehensive plan in terms of just allowing more development where there are infrastructures and easier connections to water and sewer, because without those, it makes development really burdensome financially. And so in terms of the location, it is a great area to rezone to multifamily to allow for more housing density. So other than that, that concludes staff's presentation, and happy to answer any questions your council may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak on this item, which is ordinance 2026-011? Anyone here in the audience wishing to speak on that ordinance? Seeing none, we'll take a look at Zoom, and I see no hands raised there. Having no one wishing to speak, the item is back before the council. Are there any council comments? Any objection to enacting ordinance 2026-011? Seeing and hearing none, ordinance 2026-011 is enacted by unanimous consent. Next item on the agenda is ordinance 2026-012, amending Soldotna Municipal Code sections 3.08.010 tax levied amount and 3.06.070 fund accounting, introduced by Councilmember Hutchings. May I have a motion to enact? Ms. Hutchings.
I would like to make a motion to enact ordinance 2026-012, amending Soldotna Municipal Code sections 3.08.010 tax levied amount and 3.06.070 funding accounting.
May I have a second, please? Vice Mayor Parker. Thank you. Report from Councilmember Hutchings.
You know, my parents came to Soldotna in 1940. There was very poor road to Dover, a poor road to Kenneman, no bridge over the river, and no road to Anchorage. Pretty difficult. So my parents homesteaded right at the intersection of these two roads. They put in a service station, not that was used a lot, that's the road of traffic. And you know, things started happening. The state of, well, wasn't the state, it was the territory, the road commission, they moved from Kenai to Soldotna because we were the same. And then in the 50s, we had oil. And in 1964, we ended up with a borough and a school district. So we have seen a lot of progress over this time. And in 1964, we had our sales rate. And then when we became a city, we set sales tax rate. We were a very small city, 4,500 people. We service tens of thousands of people every week. And I know this for a fact because when we were doing our business plans, we have put in a counter for traffic that came through. And admittedly, there's a lot more traffic on the Sterling Highway than there is on the third. We still have these enormous cities. And because we are such a small city, I do not feel that we should be putting the burden on the city residents for all of our infrastructure for our capital projects, because we are servicing so many people. We have 4 public schools. We have 2 private schools. We have a post office. We have a library. We are a Kenai Borough Scheme. We are a Kenai Municipal Borough School District. We have one of the biggest hospitals in the state of Alaska. We have the accompanying clinics and medical facilities, central emergency services right in the middle of town. We have 11 parks, 3 which are heavily used in the summertime and even in the winter, with water sending in and Soldotna. We have a sports center. We have a field house. We have baseball fields. We have rodeo grounds. And we have collector streets that handle hundreds and hundreds of people on a daily basis, which are Marydale, Levied, Redoubt, and Dingle. So we are sitting here repairing roads and clearing sidewalks, and the city is paying for all of it. We just feel that everybody ought to share. I mean, we have the Sterling Highway and Kenai Spur Highway that all winter long, we are plowing the sidewalks, not the state of Alaska, even though it is their responsibility. But we want to make sure that our city residents have sidewalks to walk. Right now, who do you think is clearing all the sand off those sidewalks? Not the state, it's the city. So I just feel like we need to
here and take this 0.5% of sales tax as opposed to increasing this mill rate on the city of Soldotna residents. It is not, as a city council person, it is my fiduciary responsibility to do what is best for everyone, not just one particular group. So if you take $150,000 home and you are currently paying $75 a year for property tax because it's $500,000. To raise it to 3 mills, which is what we would have to do to meet all of the future expenses that we have for capital projects, you would be paying $450 on that very same piece of property. 5%, 0.5% on everybody says, oh my gosh, my groceries are going to go up. And yeah, they're going to go up. But how much do you spend on groceries a year? 10,000, 20,000? Let's say you spend $25,000 on groceries in a year. 0.5% is $125. That's a lot less than $450 on your $150,000 value if you have a house or a piece of property for that. We have visitors that not just come from our local area, but we have visitors from all over the state. They are using all of our facilities. We have people that come from out of the state. They are, again, using all of our facilities. So I feel that this is an equitable way to distribute the cost of what it costs us to maintain the city the way that everybody seems to want us to maintain it. Just like one of our big capital projects that we have to consider is taking East Redoubt and connecting it through the Mullen 47th Street to this Kenai Spur and Sterling Highway intersection. So we don't have any more accidents where people are coming out of East Redoubt. That is a $1.8 million cost. Now, admittedly, we'll probably get some grants, but do we want to sit here and wait forever until we can maybe get a grant? Because grants have not been very prolific recently. So this is my reason for putting forth this 0.5% sales tax. I think on what, a $5 cup of coffee, it's going to be 3 cents. So I don't know. I just think it's really the easiest way to do, and it's the most responsible way to take care of the maintenance that we need for the city for capital projects. Thank you.
Are there any members of the public who wish to speak on this item, which is ordinance 2026-012? Anyone here in the audience? Please step forward and state your name and address for the record.
Do I need to turn this on or? Okay, sounds like it's already on. My name is Nick Sorrell. My address is 102 South Fireweed Street here in Soldotna. Normally I speak extemporaneously, but because this felt like a pretty weighty issue, I wanted to make sure that I delivered a direct and written statement here tonight. And I just want everybody to know that I will be speaking on behalf of myself, not my employer, KSRM. I'm speaking as a resident of Soldotna and a taxpayer. And I want to begin by acknowledging something important. I understand the city is facing real financial pressures, rising insurance costs, rising utility costs, debt obligations, declining state support. These are all legitimate challenges. Infrastructure matters, and maintaining a city properly matters. But I oppose this ordinance for a much larger reason than simply disagreeing with taxes. I oppose it because trust also matters. When the Fieldhouse bond and other major projects were discussed with the public, residents were repeatedly assured that taxes would not need to be raised to support these kinds of obligations. Since then, the city has already added a lodging tax, and now we are discussing another tax increase specifically tied to infrastructure and capital investments. At some point, residents are justified in asking, what exactly did "we won't raise taxes" mean? And what exactly does "no additional taxes necessary" mean? Because from that perspective, many of the taxpayers, this feels like the city saying one thing when asking for support, and then once projects are approved, doing something different. At the local level, integrity matters even more. I expect empty political promises in Washington, D.C. We get those a lot, where elected officials are distant from the people they represent. But Soldotna is different. We see each other in the grocery store. We see each other at ball games and around town. Local governments work best when citizens believe the word of their leaders still means something. There's also an economic reality that deserves consideration. Every time we increase taxes, even incrementally, we make our community a little less competitive compared to neighboring areas with lower costs. That affects consumer behavior over time. Residents make purchasing decisions based on price. Visitors notice overall costs. Businesses looking at where to invest or expand notice tax environments as well. Soldotna has benefited from years of being an attractive regional place for shopping, tourism, and commerce. I think we should be very cautious about assuming that advantage is permanent or immune to policy decisions like this. A 0.5% increase may sound small in isolation, but combined with other taxes and rising costs elsewhere and everywhere in people's lives right now, it contributes to a broader feeling that government's answer is always to taxpayers more. I also do not believe every alternative has been exhausted before asking taxpayers for additional revenue. The city's own financial data shows expenditures have risen dramatically faster than revenues over time. That suggests the issue is not only revenue, it's also spending growth and prioritization, which brings me to one last concern. While discussing the looming financial pressure, the city has simultaneously continued exploring a large-scale riverfront redevelopment concept, a project that would likely require enormous investment and faces major obstacles because much of that land, obviously owned by private landowners. So I think taxpayers have a reasonable question. If finances are strained enough to justify raising taxes, why are we still spending so much money on other aspects of infrastructure and speculative development concepts instead of focusing entirely on core infrastructure and fiscal restraint? I'm not saying infrastructure should be ignored. I'm saying taxation should be a last option. After government has demonstrated it has tightened priorities, controlled spending growth where possible, and fully honored commitments previously made to voters. Tonight, I do not believe that standard is currently being met with this ordinance. Thank you.
Any questions for the speaker?
Yes, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Whitney. Thank you, Mr. Sorrell, for your testimony. Are you aware that should this be enacted, it would be dedicated strictly to the capital improvement program improvements?
Well, I think it's just a general reflection of turning to taxpayers to offset those kinds of costs. And when we're dealing with matters of revenue in decline and spending on the rise, I'm of the opinion that before we turn to increasing taxation, we leave 0 stones unturned, not even the pebbles. Like, can we sit here and honestly say we have examined every single possible avenue, every single thing that's available to us to reduce spending and improve this fiscal or this financial situation before we've turned to taxes? And to the point of it would represent $125 per person. When you spread that out, there's 4,600 people that live in Soldotna. That's nearly $600,000. That's almost $600,000, which from one perspective, you could look at that and you could say, well, that's a minor pebble or minor rock for each person to lift a large burden. But from another perspective, you could look at that total number and you could say, to solve our problems, we taxed our residents an additional $600,000.
Go ahead. Vice Mayor.
This isn't a question, but a comment. In June of 2025, the city adopted a 5-year capital improvement program that identifies projects for capital improvements over the next 5 years. And it identifies is it a recurring, revised, existing, or a new program? Within this 5 years, over the next 5 years, there are 3 that are identified as new. Total is for all these projects, which are shop roof replacement, Memorial Park improvements, homestand lane construction, ice arena, things like that, nothing sexy, exceeds $30 million.
Anything else from the council? Thank you, Mr. Sorrell.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak on ordinance 2026-012? And please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Tim Crowley, 151 West Soldotna. And I am here, been asked to speak before the council vote no on the increase of the Soldotna sales tax by residents of the Kenai Peninsula Borough that are elderly and/or on fixed incomes. As small of a percentage being sought, it would affect all in this time of inflation due to current economic world events, which have resulted in higher fuel prices, groceries, airfares, utilities, costs, and etc. Some of these residents are City of Soldotna residents that have already been affected by the 5-year annual increase in water sewer cost already. So we are not in a time of prosperity for all of us. Please vote no on this sales tax increase. I myself can afford it, but I know others who can say they cannot, and they have asked me to ask you to not to pass this. I'll just make it short. I want to thank him for Nick doing a great presentation.
Any questions or comments from the council? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Have a good. Anyone else here in the audience wishing to speak on ordinance 2026-012? Please step forward and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Mary Kroll, 36156 Tremolo Circle, Soldotna. This council is all too familiar with the challenges we face on Whistle Hill. We have continued to grow and now operate 6 independent yet distinctive businesses, from hospitality, lodging, retail, farming, and solar design and installation. We collect borough, city, and lodging taxes, yet we receive no city services even though we are located in city limits. The lodging tax of 4% is intended to promote tourism and economic development. If I'm looking at the numbers correctly, in 2025, this revenue totaled a little over $95,000. How is this money being spent? This proposed increase of 0.5% is earmarked for a variety of projects, including new infrastructure. I understand the need to improve and maintain existing infrastructure, but in order for a city to grow, it needs to expand and encourage new development. Would this tax increase be used to expand city services to meet the needs of existing commercial developments and allow for new development? With the Sterling Highway Safety Corridor project, it would be to the city's benefit to expand city water and sewer to city limits, which is boundary. According to DOT representatives, this would be the best, if only time, to expand utilities since the bulk of the expense would fall on DOT. Expanding city utilities would encourage new commercial development along the Sterling Highway, thus increasing tax revenue overall. I would encourage you to consider expanding much-needed utilities along the Sterling Highway. While an additional tax increase isn't really appealing, knowing that it can be used for growth, expansion, and provide basic services to existing businesses is a little more appealing. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from the council? The speaker. Vice Mayor Parker.
Thank you, Mrs. Kroll, for your presentation. And with respect to the lodging tax that is collected, that is also a dedicated fund, and you can find in the code the specific areas where it can be appropriated for. At this time, there have been none of the funds that are in there have been appropriated for any of the parks and recreational facilities. So,
And that information is available?
yes, ma'am.
Where it's being sent or spent?
When it will be spent, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Anything else from the council? Seeing none, thank you very much for your
You're
comments.
welcome.
Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak on ordinance 2026-012?
Hello, my name is Braden Garrett. I live at 47669 Hazy Lane, Soldotna. I'm here to oppose ordinance 26-012, the sales tax increase. My concern is not with the importance of infrastructure or long-term planning. I do believe that those investments matter deeply for the future of our community. My concern is whether this is the best time to ask residents and businesses to take on an additional financial burden without the city first providing a clear demonstration of the fiscal efficiency and long-term accountability. Families and small businesses throughout Soldotna are already navigating rising costs in nearly every aspect of daily life. As past presenters have said, housing, fuel, insurance, utilities, groceries. Even a modest increase can have cumulative impacts over time, especially in a local economy that depends heavily on small businesses, activities, and tourism. I think many residents, including myself, are simply looking for reassurance from the council and from the city that existing resources are being maximized as effectively as possible by the city before additional taxation is pursued. Questions surrounding transparency, prioritization, and measurable outcomes are reasonable questions for the public to ask, especially when new recurring revenue is being proposed. I also believe, especially with my background in the legislature, being the legislative aide to Justin Ruffridge for 1 year, working there and learning about the inner workings of our government, that there's understandable concern whenever taxes are introduced as relatively small increases, because historically those increases often become permanent parts of future budgets. Now, this isn't being cynical. It's a fact of reality, whether intended or not, that actually contributes to public hesitation and skepticism regarding taxation increases. I would encourage the council to continue emphasizing transparency, detailed financial planning, and clear public accountability before increasing taxes, so residents can feel confident not only in where these funds are going, but also how existing taxpayer dollars are already being managed, with clearly defined audit trails to show efficiency, transparency, and accountability to the residents of the city you serve. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from the council? Seeing and hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else here in the audience wishing to speak on ordinance 2026-012? Seeing none, we'll take a look at Zoom, and there are no hands raised there. Having no one else wishing to speak, the item is back before the council. Any council comments? Mr. Carey?
Was my plan to be first, but I accept that. I found it interesting in one of the comments that on discussing this was Soldotna is becoming a hub in the Central Peninsula. 44 years ago, I was first elected by the people of Soldotna, and in 12 elections after then elected, to continue to always look at the strategic decision-making, especially on taxation. I want to tell you, we've been a hub of the peninsula for all 44 years I've been serving. We didn't all of a sudden, today, we're now a hub. We have been a center of this peninsula, and we've been an economic center. And for the businesses that come here, and all of us know that there are many small business people who can only last a few years here just because of the economic condition of volume, lack of, and then they try a different business. And so the idea that there is a new urgency that we need to start getting more money, I question the full discussion, a more full discussion in terms of that. I do not support this because I do not believe there's been anywhere near the discussion. I've heard, well, it's been decades since we've raised taxes so that we should do it now. It's simply with time, of course, it's only logical to raise taxes. I'd like to see discussion about a referendum in front of the people of Soldotna. Should we, after 40 years, raise taxes? Pretty simple type thing. I believe in the collective wisdom of the community. Now, I respect everyone sitting here. And again, having been in public service a long time, I believe those who have more information, who deal with issues more consistently in terms of their life and their profession, that the weight of their comments should be held a little bit higher than those who do not have as much background, education, and consistency. It's part of the no taxation without representation theory. And I think all that is a good thing to consider. One of the unmentioned, at least so far tonight here, but often mentioned is we should take every penny we can get from those tourists. Those no good people from wherever, we deserve to get more money from them. And that is one of the underlying, I'm going to say, flaws in the idea that we should always be looking for more tourist and sales tax. As if somehow the growth of this city, which has been highly influenced by all these many people who come here year after year after year over decades and contribute. And the idea that when they come here, somehow they're doing a much less financial disadvantage to the city than positive. They're ruining all of our roads, or all the things we're doing are being destroyed by all these people coming and visiting. I reject that. Many of them are our families. And I have difficulty thinking that our families coming to visit us somehow are a detriment and deterrence to us. Or quite frankly, any Alaskan or any American. I think the idea that we have a community where people want to come here, and all that we can do to keep taxes lower, I think helps increase people coming here and spending money. I think that's a very positive goal. That's the policy that we've been looking at for many decades. And a 1/6 increase in sales tax, and I like it when, well, it's only 1.5% overall, and it's only a few $100,000 overall. It's a 1/6 increase in one time. Again, I would like to see a vote of the people. I would like to see if indeed this justified. Could it be done over a period of time? Could it be done incrementally? If we're doing it because it's been so many decades since we've taxed people more, we need to do it now. And normally you get a big increase because increases aren't normally real popular. And so you take a lot the first time. So I would like to see more discussion on this. I'd like to see more input. I appreciate the discussion of each person here, but I also want to say I've talked to a lot of people in the community, and I haven't found anyone other than people very closely involved with government who are in support of this. The people that live here. And the discussion, one of the things that the people of Sterling are losing their school and the people of Tustin are losing their school, so they're going to now start coming here. And that somehow this is a burden. Soldotna has had that wonderful, healthy burden of people from all over the country, state, and even world want to come here and want to spend time here on the resources we have here. You know, we really don't own that river, okay? It's a natural resource that we benefit from. And so I don't support this. I don't think there's been near enough discussion. And I don't think that we need to, I don't see any reason at this time. The other factor I'm hearing is the wonderful surplus that we have built over the last 30 years. We've been using some of it for the expenses we've had here, particularly in the last few years. And because that very large surplus is now being used, we've got to do stuff to be sure that we build that back up, or at least we stop the decline. I think we built the surplus to do the things we're doing now. We didn't build the surplus so that we had more money to ask for more money. I appreciate the discussion on this, and I hope others will also oppose it.
Any other comments from the council? Mr. Nelson?
So we had a work session here, which is attached to the packet, which talked a little bit about the city's financial outlook and things. And, you know, one of the recommendations, or one of the possible recommendations, is what you see before you tonight, which is the 0.5% sales tax increase. There are some things Mr. Carey said I certainly agree with. We certainly went to kind of the discussion phase to let's put an ordinance in front of us. I have a real hard time with it. I don't want to raise taxes, and I will agree, as folks have said, that we do have a recent tax that's new to us, which is our lodging tax. Again, specifically allocated to a certain type. This is also specifically allocated to things. So it's a real hard thing because I can certainly see some of these things, but when we look at a couple facts, so I run a business. When you think about something like health insurance, and I think I'm getting this number correct, that the increase in health insurance has been to the city 189% to our employees. I've certainly seen that in my very small business, which is nothing to the size of the city. I swear every week I get an email, probably just like a lot of you, that says the increase for this service or the price is increasing because of inflation, those things. But on the other hand, I've got to look, and when we last set this rate in, I believe, 1984, 82, forgive me, it's not right in front of me, I used just an online inflation calculator, and $1 at that time is now $3.20. So while I certainly respect what people are saying about this hitting our residents, which is true, it's also hitting the city. And the balancing act here to me is, what do we want to do as a city? We've been pretty good at this, I think. We built up those balances. We've done things that people want us to do. So now we're looking at less money coming in, roads that need to be dealt with, refrigeration systems that need to be fixed. Trust me, go down to a park, go down to a campground, go down even probably around this building. There's always some maintenance. There's always something that needs doing, that whether we prioritize it for now or for later, that stuff happens. So, is it a huge increase? No. Is it probably warranted? Probably yes, but Mr. Carey's comments have to give me pause. Is there more things that we can discuss? I'm looking at the packet from this work session. We can potentially think about some other options. We can see how investment earnings go. But the one thing that really gave me pause coming into this meeting today was, if we don't do this at this time, what will come into the next one? The next time we have to do this. So for instance, if we wait a few years, what does the inflation rate look like? And now we're behind. So does that mean now, because we're kind of buried a little bit, and we have to do an even bigger increase that's more of an impact on people? It may be not a popular opinion. I would rather deal with sales tax than property tax. I travel a lot, I tell you. I go to a hotel and if the tax rate's less than 15%, because there's usually half a page of charges that I'm paying, I'm usually pretty happy. And I don't change because I've got to go where I've got to go, and you just sort of have to pay it. So sales tax, I think, is the most equitable because it does spread things out. So I don't know if I have a very good concluding thought, but I just wanted to kind of share my thought process here, and that there's a lot that goes into this. And forgive me for putting you on the spot, but I may ask if I could direct to the city manager through the mayor, some of these other things. Are there other possible considerations that I am not remembering for our work session as far as from a financial standpoint that more time would allow us to look into or get more information about? I don't really recall that came up in our last work session, but if you could just refresh my memory, if there's anything I'm missing, I think I certainly would appreciate it. Thank you.
If I understand your question correctly, during the work session, it was our goal, and the preparation leading up to the work session is to basically look under every rock and every process and every option regarding funding. There's been talk about tightening budgets, and we looked at that as well. And then, what would it look like if we cut some services? And we looked at that as well. We don't want to cut services. So we did look at every funding option. We will always chase funding options that, any available grant opportunity or any other opportunity. But we did look at what else could we do? And this is this proposed solution.
And I appreciate that, and I'll finish up, if I have one more second here, Mr. Mayor, is basically to say that is the other challenge. Some people will come in and say, well, I don't use the field house. Great. I don't use the library. Great. I don't play hockey. Great. But, a lot of those things kind of define Soldotna in a way, just like the river does. We do an awful lot of things with hockey teams, and we've had I don't know how many events we've had in the field house lately, and some of those things, wrestling tournaments and political conventions and other things. So, everybody kind of has their pet thing that they're really passionate about, whether that's sports or a library or a park. But, if we come up here and say we're going to cut one of those things, then there's a large constituency that's against it. So it's a balancing act. I'm not saying our jobs are hard. I don't think they're easy, but it is one of those things that I think we have to think about. And I thought about what I would say to cut. I can't say anything that I could find in our budget that wouldn't be a detrimental impact to some segment of our population. Thank you.
Any other council comments? Sheldon?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Like Councilman Nelson, I also struggle with this. There's a lot to process and a lot of very good points on both sides, and it's a very difficult discussion. I'd like to say thank you to everyone for coming out tonight. As policymakers, it's important that we hear from all members of our community, and the feedback that we get here tonight it's very essential.
Can you speak up though, please?
Let me move my mic over and go a little closer. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, great. What I'm saying is, I'd like to thank all of you for coming out tonight. As policymakers, it's important that we hear from all members of our community. We really do value the feedback you're able to provide for us. It's really essential for helping us make informed policy decisions. And we've heard a lot of concerns about this proposed change, both this evening and just leading into this meeting. And they're all valid points that should be factored into our consideration. And I'd like to share some of my thoughts on these. I've kind of put together, typing in a bunch of different notes, trying to collect my thoughts. As a community, we've made significant investments in our infrastructure all around us that we all benefit from. City of Soldotna resident and non-resident alike. Things like our roads that we drive on every day to work, our parks that our kids play on, our public buildings. These are all things that are, these are all investments that have been very expensive to support historically. But historically, we've traditionally received funding from the state of Alaska to support these infrastructure investments, not just us, municipalities across the state. The difficult reality of our present situation that we're facing, along with all other cities and boroughs in our state, is that support from the state of Alaska has been diminishing for years. And that infrastructure still needs to be maintained at the end of the day. We can talk about, making reductions and postponing infrastructure investments and care, But we just don't want to dig ourselves into a hole where we continue to defer maintenance to a point where, we're saving expenses today to only face exponentially higher expenses years down the road from now, and we can't kick that can any longer. I get it. No one wants taxes, especially if those taxes are just going to go into a general fund with no checks and balances on how they're used. I really do want to emphasize again the point that part of this establishment of the increased tax rate would be the establishment of a new capital infrastructure fund to essentially ensure that any revenue raised is not being frivolously spent just to support the status quo. It would be to support taking care of our infrastructure, maintaining that, expanding where needed, but again, not wasting the money. That's critical here to maintain public trust. One of the points we've consistently heard is that when needs shift, you need to control expenses and live better within your means, and rather than just raise revenue. Mr. Sorrell spoke very eloquently to that tonight about, how we have a duty of trust to show that we have pursued reductions first. I fully agree, and we really have. And speaking to that, because a lot of this, as we've been mentioning, is oriented around capital infrastructure. I want to take a couple minutes to reflect on our capital improvement plans that we put out each year as a city. So if you're not familiar with that, this is a common thing with a lot of municipalities. Every year we put forward a plan that basically says, okay, let's forecast our capital infrastructure needs over the next 5 years, and basically helps us forecast the expenses that we're going to be facing as a city. And if you look at those, it's pretty significant. You could argue some of those are optional. I understand that. Other parts of those plans, though, I mean, it's taking care of the infrastructure we have, and those costs are fairly high. But the point I want to make with this is if you look back just over a 4-year period on those capital improvement plans, you can see that we, looking back at the 5-year plan that we outlined in FY22 going through FY26, I believe, for each of those upcoming years, and I'll look at the last 4 years, there's a projected cost of all this infrastructure that we have to maintain, improve, build out, just to continue to support the city, and it's fairly high. And we have been cutting and reducing through omission of projects that we recognize we don't have the funding to support, and we have to prioritize with what we have. So, like if you look at FY23, we had originally planned for $2.4 million in infrastructure maintenance and development. When the capital budget on that was implemented, that went from 2.4 million to 1.1 million. In FY24, that original plan, I think, had $6 million planned. But by the time that was implemented, the CIP had that reduced to 105,000. In FY25, we had originally identified $3.7 million in need. By the time that CIP came into fruition, FY25 was down to 575,000. In FY26, we had projected $2.5 million in capital needs. The CIP that was adopted for that year had 395,000. That is a total reduction of $12.4 million in costs that we have already cut where possible by omitting projects that we recognize we just don't have the funding to support. And when you look at a city of an annual budget, let's just ballpark and round at $14 million, you could amortize that over those 4 years and say that's about a 25% reduction. We are trying. We are. So I want to emphasize, I respect that view, and we are trying to adhere to it. Another concern mentioned was that we're just using these revenues to cover costs of projects like the field house that were supposed to be covered without new taxes. That CIP I referenced has enough costs to support capital infrastructure identified aside from that I think we'd be facing this discussion regardless of the field house. There's never a good time to raise taxes. It's always going to be painful for someone. We've genuinely tried to work around reductions from the state as best as possible in recent years. I'd like to commend our staff. They're amazing at scrounging under the couch cushions and trying to dig up change and find alternative funding sources in lieu of the state funding that we've traditionally relied on along with all other municipalities. But we're approaching a point in which it's not going to be possible to continue without risking our existing infrastructure investments. If we do pass this tonight, and again, I'm still weighing both sides of this, it's a very difficult discussion. It's imperative that we respect the contribution our community would be making and ensure that it is used responsibly. And it's clear that we have plans and guardrails in place to make sure that we would be doing as promised to the maximum benefit of the community. So again, I thank everyone for coming out tonight. It's a difficult discussion. We do hear you and value your feedback. So thank you.
Any other council comments? Anyone else? Ms. Wackler?
Yeah, I think to speak to what Jordan talked about, this is definitely not an easy decision to make. Sales tax is on its face regressive tax. It affects everyone equally, which means that lower income people, it's affected more so than higher income earners. It is, again, when we look on the face of how we make our revenue, we make our revenue on sales tax. We don't typically, we have half a mil. And so if you look at the percentage of our revenue, it is massively coming from sales tax. It is not coming from property tax. And we've also reduced property tax for senior citizens as well. So we have tax caps those are shifting and changing. Those moved. And then we also, it's really hard. We don't want to attack tourists. We don't want to attack anyone. I think it's been said, like, we're not punitively trying to capture income from people outside our area. We're trying to equitably, we provide services for an area that is not the tiny circle that is Soldotna. I think everybody knows that the city of Soldotna serves an area that's significantly bigger than what is on the face of it. And the only way to equitably service that is through a sales tax. Yeah, of course, if I thought that the city of Soldotna was using its money in a way that was inappropriate or willy-nilly, I would be leaning more towards the no, because I sit here and listen to what our staff does to reduce costs every day, to make sure things are done the cheapest and safest and long-term planning that they put into all of these projects. I don't think that we're spending money in a way. And if anyone wants to see how we spend it, we do have independent audits that are obviously available online that people can look at. We have those done. You can take a look at how everything is spent down to the penny by department, and see exactly where cost savings can come in. But we do have things that are coming up that need to be done, and the essential needs that I hear people talk about that the city should be responsible for is making our streets cleared of snow, and having a new roof on our maintenance building is an essential need. The infrastructure is not just random fun projects. It's stuff that has to be done to provide the services that the residents here need to be able to run businesses. We're not islands. Nobody likes taxes, but to say that you run a business without all the infrastructure surrounding it contributing to that, I don't think you could run a business in Soldotna without our city road maintenance being able to remove snow, without our public works department fixing the sanitation, all of that stuff. I don't think you'd be able to survive. So that would be my comment on why I think it's more equitable to increase the sales tax by 0.5% than to have our citizens, the alternative would be to increase property taxes. And if I'm looking at those two things, I think I would have to lean towards a sales tax to be more equitable in this situation. Thank you.
Anyone else on the council? Vice Mayor Parker.
Thank you, Mayor Whitney. I've appreciated everybody's comments and the discussion tonight. The work session that we had recently that outlined where we've been, where we are, where we need to be. For years, I've been a strong advocate of making sure that we have the funds available to operate and maintain our existing city facilities. And in recent years, we've struggled. The improvements we're doing to buildings today have been on our capital improvement program for years. And every year we shuffle because something came up and we need to take care of this and we don't have the money, so we need to move it over here, and we postpone the project to to a later date. I don't want to see the city go down a rabbit hole that has occurred with buildings and facilities that are owned by, whether it's the university, the state of Alaska, or the Kenai Peninsula Borough. And we see it here locally with schools and buildings that are owned by the city and by the boroughs where it's deferred maintenance. We are seeing it here at the borough level today where the borough and the school district can't provide services to the schools, and they want us, the cities, to take over those services. How do we pay for it if we're struggling right now to pay for the services that we're trying to provide? People say, look at other sources. Well, we have looked at other sources, and currently today, the city of Soldotna is paying on 4 bonds: the field house, the library, and 2 utility bonds. So it's not where we're not looking and identifying options and looking at other sources. We're doing that. The state of Alaska used to give a good deal of money for community assistance. They also used to give grants to local governments. They're not doing that these days. Community assistance is way down. Federal government, same thing. We have been fortunate that we have in past years received some congressionally designated funds from the senator and the congressman, but those funds continue to go down and down. The comment was made by my neighbor about tourists. I love that people like coming to Soldotna. I'm glad they come. I'm glad that they come and they have a good time. And particularly in July, when we're inundated with folks coming to see us, I'm saying, come, have a good time, enjoy yourself, be respectful, and we'll see you next year. They help all of us. They help all of your businesses, and are supportive of our community. So I hope they continue to come. And I am not opposed to a 0.5% tax on $500. That's $2.50. Some people, I know we have a lot of coffee shops in this area. There's 3 things that dominate in the Soldotna area, and it's coffee shops, churches, and cannabis, the 3 C's. And people are spending money at all 3 of those. When the plate goes around, people are putting money in the plate. They're putting money when they go to the cannabis shop. They're putting money when they're going and buying their coffees, whether it's up the hill or down the road. So I don't see the $2.50 on $500 being a extreme burden. I do look at the list that we have for capital improvements, and this year is very minimal. But I look at FY 27, and we're looking at over $2 million in potential projects. The next year, we're looking at over 7 million. And it's not going to stop. Do you take your money always out of your savings account to pay for everything? You leverage and you use those monies and look at it in a collaborative effort. So I think, is there any time the right time? Probably not. You got to make a decision at some point, and I'm prepared to make a decision this evening and support the 0.5% increase.
Any other comments from the council? Okay, well, I'll say a few words. I have to agree with just about everything everybody said here tonight. There's never a good time to raise taxes, whether it's today, a year from now, or any time. There's always going to be an objection. I tend to walk around town quite a bit, every day. And this has been a hard winter on our roads. Take a look at some of our roads and some of our sidewalks. They need a lot of work. That costs money. We're getting to the point here in the city that we have to weigh what can be done and what we can afford. So I happen to be one of those people that will be paying this tax. I don't see my shopping habits or anything else changing. I will still have to go to the grocery store. I'll still have to buy gasoline. And I'll be paying that same tax, just like everyone else on this city council. So whatever we do here also affects us, not just you, and just not the visitors that come here. Sometimes in the summertime, we kind of have a love-hate relationship with some of our visitors. We love them being here in town and spending money and making things good for our businesses and help supporting our city. But they also put a big burden on our city staff, our city buildings, our city roads. We've been fortunate over the last couple of years to have received a few grants. But by the time we get those grants and can start construction, costs have gone up again, like everywhere else. We're all paying. And I don't know what the solution is. We've got a sports center that everybody loves and everybody uses. And we've got a project there that's going to cost us anywhere from $6 to $9 million. And if we don't do it, there won't be any ice. There won't be an indoor hockey rink anymore. It'll be outside. So it's not like everyone on this council sitting here thinking of all these big dream projects that we're going to do. It's just the basics, what we need to get done to make this a great place to live. We heard talk about the riverfront development. That's looking to the future of our community. That's going to have a benefit to everyone in the community. Has the city put any money into it? No, other than staff time and a grant that we received to do economic development on it. Do I expect to see that happen? Maybe, probably not in my lifetime though. We hear about the LNG project coming in and that it's going to do so much for our community and it's going to do so much for the Kenai Peninsula. I've been hearing that for 51 years, that the LNG is coming. When I see that truck going down the road with a load of pipe and a construction crew right behind it, I'll believe it. Until then, I think we're just going to be sitting here dreaming again. So I don't have a vote on this, unless, of course, it comes up 3-3. But I do support this. I think we need it. I don't think you'll see anyone in this council or any future council using that money in a frivolous way to build a Taj Mahal someplace. It's just not going to happen. So there's no other comments. We will call for the vote.
Hutchings,
Yes.
Chilson,
Yes.
Wackler,
Yes.
Carey,
No.
Parker,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Kincaid.
Yes.
You have 5 yes, 1 no.
Ordinance 2026-012 passes on a 5-1 vote. Moving on to the next agenda item, that will be under mayor and council reports. As I just mentioned, I think our roads took a terrible beating this winter. And like I said, I walk these streets almost every day. And there's some really bad spots. And I know it's still a little early to try and get out there and do some repairs, but we've got a lot of work to do on the city streets, not only now, but in the future. This afternoon, I had the opportunity to attend the annual Chamber of Commerce Scholarship luncheon. Some great kids out there getting scholarships. was half, 5 of them, I think it was, that received a $3,000 scholarship. And one teacher that also received a $3,000 scholarship for attending to become a better teacher than he already is. Other thing, if you're not doing anything on May 22nd or May 29th, at about 2:30 in the afternoon, there's going to be a little party down at the Aspen Creek retirement home. We have 2 residents here in Soldotna that will be turning 103 years old, one on the 22nd and one on the 29th. If any of us make it that far. 103. Hannah Stormo and Ureta Kobik used to go by the name, or goes by the name Peachy, or Peach. Yeah, I think they used to have a distributor here, distributorship, something, you know. Okay. Next thing, council reports on boards and commissions. We have none this evening. Next item, report from city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to keep mine really brief. I can say that the most of the focus has been on the sales tax and doing all the background work and working with the staff. And I really do want to thank all of the staff for all of their work on this. We all came together to identify projects. We went through for the work session document, we called it obligated funds for pending projects, something like that title. We went through every single project to identify, is the project still viable, needed? Where is it in the process? And we continue to do so. In fact, Kyle and I have a meeting next week, or maybe it's the week after, but coming up to again go through that list and continue to work on if it isn't viable, if it isn't, then we don't complete it. So we continue to do that. I know that you know this, but those out there may not know it. And if you can spread the word as well, all of our audits are online. All of our financial reports are online. I do want to say that for public education, and we'd be happy to direct people to that link or obtain copies or whatever is needed. As we all know, the mayor spoke about it, the LNG project. I've been attempting and working really hard to try to get meetings with Glen Farn and other entities that are involved. At this time, haven't been able to do so, but will continue. I do know that the borough is meeting with them. And then today, I watched a lot of this House session with Glen Farn. And I guess I do understand why they're not meeting with us now. They are very, very much entrenched at the Capitol and dealing with the meetings that are being held there. So anything new that develops, I'll keep you posted on that. But, my whole goal is to talk about the impact to the city and, want to get ahead of impacts, always the goal, and to know what's happening next. So I think I'll stop there unless there's any questions.
Okay, but I'm going to say one last thing. It just dawned on me while the city manager was speaking. As we all know, the borough school district is closing down the swimming pools, and there's been a lot of discussion about the So-High swimming pool. We had that work session here a couple of weeks ago about the swimming pool. We are going to have on the agenda for the next meeting a presentation by a local swim club that's putting together a nonprofit to see if they might be able to take over at least the Soldotna High School swimming pool. They will be making a short presentation, and we will be having a discussion later on our agenda about those swimming pools, or about that swimming pool. So, public comments. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak on any item? Anyone here in the audience wishing to speak on any item? Seeing none, we'll take a look at Zoom. And I see no hands raised there. Next item, council comments. We'll start with Ms. Wackler.
I'll keep it short today. I am glad people came out. We got some emails. There was some discussion in town. I got some insight into how people felt about this, and I do appreciate people coming out to speak about this. So yeah, thank you for coming out. Yeah, I said I'd keep it short today, so I will leave it at that.
Ms. Kincaid.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. So with the school year wrapping up, everything's starting to fade out a little bit. But with sports this week, we have softball games in town this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday evenings. Over at the fields by the Historical Society. And baseball is in Anchorage. Soccer, we have games here Friday and Saturday. And at track, they have their Burrows and Seward. We had, in other news, we had another loss at Soldotna High School. Another student sadly took his life. And we are still trying to support each other and trying to make those and really working as a student council to expand our efforts to really bring our student body population together and to find events and find different ways that we can be able to include everybody and really make that feel like a community. And we're just thankful for all of the different events that the city has and every single resource that the city has that we can be able to have things for kids to do and to bring them together and to really have that community driven for kids. But it is an effort that we have going on to really have people feel seen. And also other news, we have our graduation this Monday at 6 p.m. on the Sohai Field if you guys wanted to make it. And that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. And I know graduation is this Monday night, and I certainly hope it's going to be warm, that I don't freeze to death out there on the football field watching the ceremonies. Ms. Hutchings.
Well, I would like to thank the council for passing the 0.5% sales tax. I think it's an extremely equitable tax, and I think all of our staff and all of our infrastructure and any capital projects that we need to take care of, we have an opportunity to succeed. So thank you so much for that. And on a happy note, I'm going to be in Anchorage tomorrow night for graduation from high school for my grandson. And
Mr. Carey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to speak about Memorial Day. I was 4 years old when my father was killed in action. And so I certainly know the importance of every single person that wears a uniform on behalf of our country, whether it's in the armed forces or again, civil services, again, police force, fire. I hope that we as a nation, as a community, we fully respect and honor those people who invest their lives in making this the country we are. We're coming up on this 250th anniversary. I think that should be a huge thing for all of us. We are so fortunate that we still survive. And what we did here tonight, again, was another example of what it is to be an American. I didn't want to go first because I kind of thought it was going to be 5-1. But I am very pleased that we live in a country where we can have an honest and friendly and engaged discussion. I don't fear any of you in terms of what you had to say. We should never fear knowledge. We should, in fact, we should rejoice and we should expand our desire to learn more. And that's what I believe all those who have lost their lives for our country, that's what they believed in. And so again, I hope everyone enjoys Memorial Day appropriately and that we respect those. And please keep in mind, we have many thousands of people right now in harm's way wearing uniforms. And we've lost a few of them, and hopefully, God willing, not a single one more. Thank you.
Mr. Nelson.
No comments tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Chilson.
No comments either.
Vice Mayor Parker.
Thank you, Mayor Whitney. I do want to thank all the people who provided public testimony tonight. I didn't get any emails. I didn't get any phone calls. Nobody stopped me when I was out and about and said, whether this proposed ordinance was good or bad. So I was nice for folks to come, and we got people who were opposed, but we also had people who were supportive. So we had it both ways. We do still continue to have a lot of demands coming to us as a city where people are saying, we can't fund this, but we need it here in our community. Can the city take care of it? And so we're always trying to find ways to take care of our community at large. Moving on to a separate subject, new subject that's not new, as the mayor pointed out. It's been around for over 50 years. A gas line coming from the North Slope to go to Canada or come here, who knows? There's been all sorts of iterations over the years. Unfortunately, but due to the difficulties in getting natural gas in Cook Inlet these days, the supplies in Cook Inlet are becoming more and more challenging to retrieve. So there's talk about potentially having an LNG import facility, and that facility could be here in Nikiski. So if we don't have a gas line or an LNG facility, we could have an import facility. So there is the potential in the next few years for a project to take place in Nikiski, and everything that will be needed for facilities in Nikiski will have to go through Soldotna and Kenai to get to Nikiski, unless they use ASRC's dock out north to drop everything off, which I don't think would happen. But so those are the potentials. And closing on a good note, SoHi continues to rock in everything that they undertake. Congratulations to the students and staff and faculty at SoHi, and to all the graduates that will be graduating on Monday. And I hope in future years you guys come back and stay here in our community and take care of us as we get old. Thank you.
Actually, I had some good news too. My granddaughter who left and moved to California decided Soldotna's not that bad of a place. She's back here now. So future looks good. Next item on our agenda, executive session, city manager and city clerk annual evaluation under AS 44.62.310C2. If discussed in public, may prejudice the reputation and character of any person. In accordance with Alaska Statute 44.62310C2, the city council may convene into an executive session to discuss subjects which may prejudice the reputation and character of any person. May I have a motion to move into executive session? Vice Mayor Parker.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to enter into an executive session to discuss the city manager's annual evaluation and the city clerk's annual evaluation. Both Ms. Bauer and Ms. Blankenship have elected to have the discussions take place in executive session. The executive session will include the mayor, city council members. The city manager and the city clerk will be included when the council requests their presence. That is the motion.
May I have a second, please? Thank you, Ms. Hutchings. Are there any objections to convening into executive session? Seeing and hearing none, we will move into executive session. And once the council returns from executive session, the Zoom meeting will be resumed.